Chapter 46, Whirlpool? Ori watches as the two mutilated people begin walking forwards. The AI-controlled truck attempts to fire at them with its turret, but a dozen sniper shots go off, destroying it completely. The duo's eyes had been replaced with the trademark glowing red open optical sensors most Maelstrom members had, which were a marked improvement to most other alternatives, while also making you look completely inhuman. Their eyes shine and a big red light on their chests begins pulsing. They grip their heads momentarily before breaking into a sprint, laughing manically as they do so. Hot, hot, hot. I want to be one with the sun, hee ha 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 ha. I am the sun. I am Art. They both ramble as they run at the truck. Because Art is an EX-Padash, they throw their bodies onto it and boom. Both of their bodies erupt simultaneously, utterly annihilating the truck and everything around it, leaving a huge crater in their wake. Nuu. Rebecca shrieks, gripping Six to stop herself stumbling to the floor. My fucking guns! She wails as all the guns she had stored in the truck go up in flames. Ha 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 ha. Take that, you dumb bitches, dash.
Boom.
Rebecca retaliates by blowing Marv's head clean off, leaving only his neck remaining as it releases some last couple of squirts of blood before stopping entirely. SCAV trash. Do you have any idea how much that shit was worth? She angrily shouts as the corpse, as if it still had ears to listen with. Ori just blankly switches between staring at that and the monitors, his mouth agape and mind running in circles.
Rebecca.
What? She angrily shouts, but pauses when she sees Ori's look of utter disbelief. She looks back down at her foot, which was resting on the corpse when it clicks. Oh shit. Ori, I'm really fucking sorry. I didn't dash. Stop. We need to leave. Six growls, his eyes locked onto the monitors which showed the Maelstrom gangers slowly approaching the warehouse. Ori releases his trembling clenched fists at that. He grabs Max's LMG and quickly makes his way to the door. We'll talk about this later, Rebecca. Let's get Max out of here first, he states as Six nods. Rebecca sends one last punt at Marv's corpse before running after the duo. I said I was sorry. The trio, now under threat of getting stormed by a small army of Maelstrom goons, quickly make their way to the basement where Max's corpse lay. While Six fished him out of the bathtub, Ori gets to work searching for anything of worth. Since Maelstrom had turned up, they'd probably steal everything and leave nothing behind. He'd need to pay 8,000 eddies to Six and 5,000 to Rebecca, leaving him with little to find his sister with. Thankfully, the scavs weren't exactly secretive with their things in their own workshop. He quickly found a freezer full of cyberware, all sealed in plastic bags and ready to be sold. He shoves all of them into a duffel bag that presumably belonged to one of their victims and sends a nod at Six and Rebecca. We good to go? Yeah, we gonna shoot our way out? Six hoists Max's body in his arms, carried in a princess hold, through the back, too many to fight. Ori scratches the back of his head while ignoring the pang of pain in his recently reset arm. We just get chased though. We've got no ride out of here. Escape and head north. Try to reach Kabuki. Maelstrom won't follow if we get close enough to the market. Six states. That's like a 30-minute walk. Rebecca exclaims. Do you have alternatives? The quiet Merc grouses. Before anyone can say anything, the building suddenly shudders and rumbles from some sort of explosion. What's that? Maelstrom. They detonated one of my charges. Six remarks. Then let's dip before they bring the place down on us. Rebecca says as she makes her way to the stairs. Ori and Six follow, and luckily the warehouse was still almost completely clear of Maelstrom gangers, which they got back to ground level. All that was present were a couple Maelstrom meat shields that were searching for more charges, their masters obviously unwilling to risk getting blown up for a scav workshop. Ori shoots them dead with his LMG, and the trio quickly rush for the back door. Ori runs through first, his eyes widening at the four Maelstrom gangers standing nearby keeping watch. Hey, what the foo dash?
Bang!
Rebecca blasts his head away, before running over to the next and slamming the barrel of her shotgun into their stomach, pulling the trigger and making it rain blood from a couple seconds. Ori guns down one, but the other manages to escape around the building, shouting for reinforcements. Fuck, he yells, angry that he just made their situation even more difficult. Forget it. Rebecca responds as she looks at the wire fence blocking their way. The top was lined with barbed wire, making it difficult for Ori and her to get over, and impossible for Six with Max's body in his arms. Move. Six states, raising his foot and stomping on some metal links. A loud screech rings out as the metal fails under his strength, the links deforming before finally snapping, creating a waist-height hole to get through. Rebecca goes through first, then Ori. Six rests Max's body down and the duo pull it through, but just as Six was entering, bullets sound out and spark off of his metal back. He ignores it, getting through and picking up Max again as the duo return fire. You think you can fuck around in Brick's turf? Get 'em, boys. One goon shouts, his arm opening up to reveal a heavy-duty barrel.
Bang, bang, bang.
The guy's arm kicks back with heavy force as he fires. .50 bullets kicking up dirt around the group as they flee through the street. 6 takes one to his side, causing blood to fly and spatter onto the nearby ground. He simply glances back, however, and activates the rest of his charges. Boom. Chapter 47. Need for Speed? Boom. The warehouse abruptly explodes, the entire first floor of the place going up in flames as the structural pillars supporting its weight all collapse simultaneously. They fall inwards, and the rest of the building soon follows. The Maelstrom goons who'd been shooting at Ori and the others didn't realize they were standing so close to the building, allowing it to literally fall over onto them, crushing most to death. That didn't mean much, however, as the sound of engines signaled that their fleet was on the move, all presumably baying for blood. Ori and Rebecca didn't have time to celebrate the crazy cool explosion as Maelstrom vehicles drifted around the corner at the end of the street. Gangers leant out of the windows and started firing at them with a litany of weapons, forcing the group to duck into another lot, this one filled with old water towers. Becca, call Judy, Susie, or anyone. Have the Mox meet us halfway to Kabuki or something, or we're fucked. You call them. I'm busy here, she retorts while firing potshots at a couple guys mindlessly sprinting after them. My interface is still fucked from earlier. He spits back. The Nanite still hadn't connected his interface, leaving him with no comms, texts, calls, or anything else. If he had any other cyberware, that'd not be working either, since they were controlled through the interface, which was connected to his spinal cord.
Fine.
You get those guys. She relents as her eyes flicker with light. Daga. Ori sprays some bullets haphazardly behind him which hit 2 gangers and forced the rest into cover. He didn't have time to celebrate, however, as engines roar ahead of him. Shit. 2 Maelstrom cars had just stopped directly in front of them, blocking the exit from the lot. 5 guys start to get out, but before they're able to get off a single shot, Ori throws one of his last grenades, which lands right between the cars.
Boom.
The explosion rips through the thugs and utterly decimates one of the cars. The other had a back wheel blown, however, the tire on the other side deflating at a visible rate. Get in.
Ori exclaims.
That thing ain't drivable. Rebecca retorts, but Ori just opens the passenger door and throws her inside like some luggage. 6 soundlessly gets into the back with Max's body. Ori drops into the driver's seat and starts the car up, inwardly grimacing at the squeal the engine gives. Clearly, the grenade had knocked something around. His apprehensions of driving it were lost, however, as a bullet whizzed over the bonnet, leaving a deep scratch in the paint. Grerar. He slams his foot on the accelerator while pulling the steering wheel fully to the side. The single remaining back wheel kicks off its tire, and a metal screeching rings out as metal grinds against concrete. Have you ever driven? 6 angrily shouts, leaning forwards and punching a button on the dashboard, changing it from rear-wheel drive to 4-wheel. Just as Ori was giving his retort, the car launched itself forward, its front wheels compensating for the unfunctional back. The thing is almost completely uncontrollable, skidding one direction one moment and the other the next. He accidentally slams the back into a Maelstrom ganger, who gets caught under the tireless back wheel and literally cut in half by it. H-O-O-L-L-L-Y-Y-Y fuck. Ori shouts as he zooms down the street, a small fleet of Maelstrom vehicles chasing closely behind them. Rebecca and 6 lean out of the windows and shoot back at them, bringing one vehicle down but getting forced back inside from the volley upon volleys of bullets. The car skids around a corner, literally doing a complete 360 foot before he straightens it and carries on. The fucking thing felt like it was on ice skates, and the situation was only made worse as they entered a busier street. The civilians in their vehicles must have been completely fucking retarded if they hadn't noticed the chaos going on behind them. None had moved an inch as Ori drove 50 mph towards them with the back of his car sliding right to left independent of the front. Beep. Beep. Only a single person out of the waiting line of cars drives onto the pavement to avoid him, the rest sitting by as he gets closer. He attempts to drive through the middle of them, but the back of car smashes heavily into another, causing the thing to jolt, jump, and rest a tire on the side of a pickup truck. Hey, what's the big fucking idea? An enraged driver starts as he sticks his head out, but pauses when he comes face to face with Rebecca and her shotgun. You want to start HUH? She angrily asks, cocking her gun. No. That's what ITHOU. IYYYEE, she shrieks as Ori accelerates once more, somehow managing to get through the traffic and onto a side road which led towards Kabuki. What's the sitch on the Mox? Ori questions, knowing the Maelstrom was still trailing them judging by the gunshots still going off. Susie said she ain't coming, but changed her tune when I said we were bringing them to her. Mox should be setting up around the south side of Kabuki Market. Almost there. Fuck yeah, we're almost there. Rebecca grins, leaning out the window and waving at the enraged gangers. Hear that? FUCK wads? She gets back in and turns on the radio before putting it full blast. Who's Ready for Tomorrow by Rat Boy and IBDY.
Bang.
Or not. Six shoots a hole into the radio with a scowl. Not the time. As if a signal from God. Smoke begins quickly escaping the bonnet of their car, the engine giving off creaking noises as it rapidly loses power. Ori's eyes widen at the steady decrease of their speed, which is mirrored by Rebecca as she pokes her head out the window again. Hey, I was just kidding. Give us a head start, will you, Dash? Fuck you, bitch. Daga gaga gagaga. Chapter 48. Crystal Clear. Ori kicks the accelerator down a couple more times, but the engine just gives up, dying and leaving them with only their current momentum. This, of course, isn't anywhere near enough to escape their pursuers. So, Ori does the last thing available to him. He gives the steering wheel a firm tug and sends the car off of the raised road they were currently on, directly down onto a darkened street just east of the market. Crash. The car lands heavily, sending its occupants tumbling around for a bit before they finally stop. With the car upside down, Rebecca groans as she slowly gets up, finding herself almost face to face with Ori, who was hanging upside down from his seatbelt. Ugh, you tryin' to kill us? What was that? Driving. Now let's Delta before they catch up, he states, unclipping himself and falling directly on his head before crawling out of the vehicle. Six was already out with Max's body in his arms. It had probably taken some knocks in the crash, but with how mutilated it already was, Ori wasn't able to tell. Next time, I'm driving? Rebecca says as she boots open the door and crawls out. Can your feet even reach the pedals? And who said anything about next time? Ori questions. What do you mean? The job was to save Max and let me deal with Marv. We didn't do either. How's that my fault? You blew his goddamn head off. They blew up my guns. Rebecca angrily shouts, but before the argument could properly get going, hey, those fuckers are still alive. A Maelstrom ganger shouts from the raised road, his glowing red optical sensor glaring down at them. He takes something into his hand and pulls a grenade. Run. Ori shouts as the other two follow. Asterisk bomb. Asterisk. The fragmentation grenade goes off next to the upturned car, missing them, but the guy's buddies step up with a dozen more, lobbing them down at the group as if they were playing dodgeball. Nearby civilians quickly retreat from the area, but a sorry few get blown to Kingdom Come. They keep running down the street. Ori knew that this road would eventually lead to Lizzie's bar, the headquarters of the Mox, but whether or not they got there before Maelstrom caught them was another matter entirely. A minute of this passes when the Maelstrom vehicles start catching up to them. Ori leaps out of the way as a car zooms past, attempting to splatter him. Rebecca fires a shot at them, punching a hole through a tire and causing them to spin out of control. Ori then lights them up with his LMG, killing its occupants. Two more cars arrive and stop a good distance down the street, but as the gangers were getting out, bang 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 bang. Moxes rush out of the nearby alleyways, their skimpy attires not matching the ferocity of which they fought with. The doll-like girls sprint quickly towards the gangers while firing their weapons, easily blasting them apart. The last ganger hits the ground as a baseball bat hits him in the temple, the person responsible resting a high heel on their head. Crystal, I knew you loved me. Rebecca grinningly exclaims as she approaches the woman, who just sniffs at her. You've got half the damn Mox running around for you. First you get kicked out, now you want to start a gang war? What next, Becca? You gonna launch your own corpo company based on blackjack and joy toys or something? Ah, you just had to go ruin my plans, didn't ya? The pale chibi walks over to her and points a finger at Ori. It's his fault anyway. He sighs. Has Maelstrom been dealt with? The rest won't be following us, will they? Crystal shakes her head. Nah, we got him running back to their turf. No one knows this area like the Mox. She folds her arms. So, you three gonna tell me what the fuck's happening? Ori glances at Six and Max's body in his arms. Get some cold storage for our friend here, and we'll talk at Lizzie's. K.
Crystal shrugs. Fine.
It's Q who's gonna want a piece of you anyway. I don't hate you for the excuse to kill these freaks. She pushes her heel harder into the Maelstrom ganger's head. It didn't take long for things to get cleaned up. The Mox definitely had a stranglehold on Kabuki, or some parts of it at least. They got a cold box for Max and dragged the trio into Lizzie's bar. Needless to say, Ori wasn't against having a drink right now. He'd needed 6 shots of vodka to settle his nerves enough that he wasn't paranoid over Maelstrom charging into the bar after him. Honestly, he was furious, depressed, scared, and somehow relieved. He'd not spoken another word to Rebecca, who was sitting next to him drinking her own drinks. Six was on his other side, doubling the amount Ori had drank. He was pissed that she'd killed Marv, despite it logically not really matching. They could have fled with him alive, and torturing him was so far off of the table that it wasn't even worth getting angry about. Still, emotion didn't follow rationale. Looking back, she'd saved his life more than once, and he hers. They made a good team, and it pained him to admit that, even after all the shit, he'd somehow had fun during it. His blood pumping, blasting pieces of shit to hell, the smell of gunpowder and the iron of blood. Was this why Mercs went crazy? Getting addicted to the violence? Enjoying the chaos of it all? His mood hit rock bottom again, however, as he remembered Max and the state they found him in. He wanted to go back in time and killed Marv again. His death hadn't brought him the satisfaction he thought it would. Maybe that was just because Rebecca had stolen it from him? He looks down at his glass and only now noticed the bloody handprint he'd left. Was that from him or someone else? He couldn't tell. He lets out a sigh, feeling his body slump in exhaustion. The wounds he'd taken had required a lot of his fat energy stores to heal, leaving him feeling like he'd run a marathon. What in the fuck were you thinking? Susie Q's voice erupts as she storms in through the front doors of the bar. Time to face the music. Chapter 49. Punishment? What in the fuck were you thinking? Chill out, Q. Nothing bad happened. Rebecca casually offers, and in response Susie throws the Chibi's beer across the room, hitting an unfortunate guy getting his rocks off with a BD. How's that for chill? She seethes while jabbing a finger at Rebecca's face. Tell me what happened right now, and I might be more lenient. Why did you have a small army of maelstrom shits chasing you? Rebecca shrugs after ordering another drink. I was on a job with Ori here to rescue their buddy. We hit a Scav workshop. They called for more guys and we got chased over here. See? Nothing to worry about. A vein on Susie's forehead visibly throbs. I was gonna be lenient if this shit wasn't your fault. If they attacked you out of nowhere or something. But it looks like you guys are to blame after all. She looks over at Ori. Is this it, kid? Your revenge for me not helping your sorry ass when you came begging for it? She questions, but Ori just shrugs and sighs at in her general direction. Your brain misfiring? Speak up. Why shouldn't I have my guys beat you up and throw you into a dumpster like trash? You really think you're important enough to me to give a shit about? He quietly responds while rolling his glass around on its sides. The scavs tore apart my father and did the same to a friend after capturing him. That's a me problem, fine. But what I don't get is how fucking weak you are. Susie sends a scathing glare at him as she slowly walks over, looming over him. Say that again, you daddy issues gonk punk. Ori returns the glare. You like to act like big shit, but all we did was give you courtesy of a heads up. You, the Mox, should have been prepared to fight off Maelstrom when they entered your territory anyway. Since you're making a big deal of this, sounds to me like you're scared of them. The gang leader grips the back of Ori's neck and turns his head to face her. You looking for a fight? You can be pissy because of your dead buddy, but keep talking like that, and I'll take you up on it. She lets go of him, almost causing him to topple off of his chair. He ain't wrong, though. Even when I was in the Mox, you guys stepped around Maelstrom like they were fresh shit on the road. Rebecca wonders aloud. Don't be stupid. The Mox protect, only attack when attacked. You lot bringing them to our turf just worsens shit. We're already struggling with the fucking claws. We don't need another enemy while we're at it. From what I've heard, you haven't been protecting all that much either. Ori adds with a drawl, downing his shot. Yeah, because you've been listening to Bleeding Heart Judy. She don't know as much as she thinks she does, and that guilt trip she's been riding for years now is only making her worse. Should just open up a damn orphanage or something and get it over with. She grouses before falling onto a chair next to Rebecca and ordering a drink of her own. What's the deal then? You gonna spank us for being bad boys and girls? Rebecca questions, resting her weight on the bar and looking at her. I'd kick you out of the gang if I could. Susie mutters before shaking her head. Lucky for you. None of our guys died, so I ain't calling for blood. From what I saw, you did some good work, though. Not many folks can handle that amount of shit and come out of it still kicking. She pauses in thought, idly sipping her drink. I'll have you work off the debt. No shortage of work around here, and you've shown you can handle yourselves. Especially you, kid. You've honestly surprised me. She admits. Not to be ungrateful, but doing unpaid labor after most of my favorite guns got fried? You know, you can roll that offer up and shove it in your cooch for all I care. Rebecca remarks. Who said unpaid? You'll get the same as the other solos we work with do. Huh. Doesn't sound like much of a punishment then. Rebecca hums. Susie shrugs. Ain't like I don't appreciate the chance to knock some maelstrom skulls together. No one died and we got a chance to show why Kabuki is our turf. What I hate is how suddenly it happened and the lack of choice. Note that shit down and we'll be able to work together just fine. She stands from her chair. You guys are still on a short leash though. Try this shit again and I'll send you on a one-way ticket to the river with concrete boots. With that warning given, she departs, leaving the trio sitting there quietly as the BD Club's music goes on. Six finishes his drink and stands, shooting Ori a text as he leaves. I will send you the location of Max's burial tomorrow morning. 6. I'll be there.
Oi.
Ori spends another 10 minutes silently sitting there, for more shots sending him into a comfortable if tipsy mood. His head rolls around atop his shoulder as if his neck had turned to jello as he stands. I'm gone too. Bye, Rebecca. He quietly offers, but pauses when he feels his sleeve get grabbed. Why? I am sorry, you know, about Marv. She admits, slurring her words. Getting your kills stolen is annoying for rando dudes. It's probably much worse for someone like that asshole.
Rigiaccati?
Yeah, Dash. Maybe. He replies, I'm still mad, but I'll get over it. He says while pulling his arm away, only for her to grip him with both hands, almost causing her to fall out of her chair as he steps away. Yo, you really gonna leave a cute drunk girl here all alone in this scummy bar? What if I get taken advantage of? Keep me company? He shakes his head, then let the guys who try rest in pieces. I still got stuff to do anyway. Goodbye, Becca, he states, finally managing to leave. He needed to get the cyberware he stole from Marv's crew put on ice. He wasn't sure if any of it was temperature sensitive or not, but he wasn't going to risk it. Chapter 50, Big Haul. Ori gets home still slightly drunk and calls Bats over, shoving the cyberware into the surprised Ripperdoc's arms.
Oi.
Is that blood? Not mine, he retorts, not all of it at least. I think you should sit down, Dash. Have you been drinking? He utters in bewilderment. Yeah, and? Can you just look over that cyberware, please? The sooner we know their worth the better, he states before stumbling into the front room and falling onto the couch. He still needed to do that, right? Dash 8,000. Dash 5,000. 6 in Rebecca's pay. While the job hadn't gone right, not paying them was the worst option he had. No point turning allies, friends, into enemies for something like simple cash. Not this amount anyway. Also, Dash 5,000. He stares at the transaction completion and lets out a sigh. Max was dead and they don't need the eddies. But Ori had sent him to his death, so paying him what he was owed was the least he could do. Or maybe that's just his guilt talking. 15,000. His balance wasn't looking all that hot anymore. Hopefully the cyberware he stole was worth something. Bats returns from his makeshift workshop an hour later with a list of what they had. Since the scavs didn't, or couldn't, target higher value targets, most of the cyberware was low-tier stuff. Smart links, extra interface ports, interface network connectors, a pile of shards that may or may not be worth something. There were some valuable pieces, however. A detoxifier worth around 8,000, maybe less considering it was secondhand. An implant that renders any known poison, venom, or other unwanted substances in the body null. These were usually tailored to suit their owner, obviously, not being to get drunk, high, or whatever else was usually seen as a big downer to most residents of Night City. This particular one didn't touch alcohol, THC, psilocin, and some other harmless substances. Of course, this could be exploited. Getting killed via alcohol poisoning was certainly possible. Not to mention having alcohol already in the blood, while ingesting something that reacts to it, like painkillers for instance. A bioconductor worth around 4,000. These things basically streamline the operation of other cyberware the user possesses, making them more reactive, sensitive, and allowing them to be used more often without short-circuiting. Some nanorelays worth around 5,000. They increase the speed of which nerves can respond. These are only really used when combined with brain processing upgrades to allow the body to keep up with the upgrades. Like the next thing on the list. A reflect tuner worth around 3,000. An augment that speeds up the brain's processing speeds during stress threat responses, essentially slowing time to the user's perspective when in danger. Rather dangerous considering you could burn your brain out if overused. A visual cortex support unit worth around 3,000. An aim assist essentially, helping the user target and visualize their shots, trajectory, etc. It wasn't anywhere near what his nanites were able to do, to be honest. Almost no cyberware was. The nanites directly interfaced with his brain, working with it to shoot as accurately as possible. Cyberware designed to do the same thing was less effective as it'd usually work against the user's own muscles. It was like trying to do weighted push-ups as opposed to regular ones. The only people who could get around this were fullborgs, as they didn't have organic muscles to fight against. Their general lack of flexibility, however, left weak points that more experienced mercs could exploit. Last on the list were a bunch of miscellaneous parts, replacement joints, hips, limbs, etc. Particularly attention-grabbing was the overabundance of sexual cyberware. Ori wasn't sure why so many people felt the need for such things, especially some of the shit laid out before him. Implants that made your cock vibrate, interface ports on your actual dick, internal storage for your balls. The female ones weren't any better. Suction units, warmth breast implants, tongue implants. Hell, there was one implant that zapped your clitoris with electricity every couple of seconds. All in all, these parts made up 9,000 eddies. That's a big haul, Ori mutters as he looks up from the list to Bats. Yeah, haven't seen this much tech since Ksenia. You gonna sell all of it? 'Cause I wouldn't mind installing some if you wanted. Might help you out there? He offers. What would he even want? The reflex tuner seemed good, but as soon as he had that thought, the nanites made their opinion known. Collective requests not installing reflex tuner unit. Flex administrator. Why? He mentally inquires. External technology will impede collective's ability to coordinate host. Host reflexes can be improved without installation via organic modification. Flesh administrator. Yeah, they still wanted to alter his brain. Still, He gave them control earlier to help him aim, didn't he? It might not have saved Max, but it had probably saved his and Rebecca's life, especially against that sniper. We can talk about those modification later. For now, is there any implant you would recommend? He mentally asks, acknowledging the fact that the nanites knew his body far better than he did. Detoxifier unit would allow collective resources to be focused on other tasks. Flesh administrator. All right. He turns to Bats. Install the detox and smart links in each hand. I'm not getting fucked again because a smart gun refused to work for me. Okay, that leaves us with 28,000 eddies. The Ripper Doc concludes. The multiple smart links, shards, and other things added the last few EDS. Ori nods. Give us a total of 43k. His lips thin. Think that's enough to post a job at the afterlife? Bat smiles slightly. Yeah, definitely. If not, then they're ripping us off. His grin gets wider. We'll do it, Ori. Not long now till we find Kat. We'll get her back, deck her out in the best clothes and cyberware money can buy, then open the largest restaurant in Night City and call it Quadrano something, he eagerly says.
Kat's dinner.
No, not classy enough.
Kat's no riture.
Ori offers, pulling up some words via his translation software. The duo spend the rest of the night, picking out names they could give Kat's restaurant. A surprisingly wholesome end to an utterly terrible day. Not that Ori thought the next day was going to be any better.